Well, hey, the Raiders spent nearly $284 million on the opening day of free agency, but was it money well spent? Well, that's what we're going to be diving into today here on the show. What's good, Raider Nation? Jesse Merrick here. Thank you guys for joining us on another live episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. This is going to be a fun one. Here's the plan for today, okay? We're going to go through every player that the Raiders agreed to terms with and break down the move. I'll explain the why behind it, what the fit is for the Raiders, what it could look like on Sundays in Klint Kubiak's offense and also Rob Leonard's defense, and the ripple effect of each of those moves, not only on the draft, but also the rest of the Raiders roster as well. But before we do all that, you guys know what time it is. We got to hit our question of the day for all you guys that are in here now live and everyone that jumps in as well. I want to know what your favorite Raiders move of free agency has been so far. I'd imagine it's going to be the landing Tyler Linderbaum for most of you guys. So if it is, hit me with your top two favorite moves and tell me why you love them. I want to know some details about why you like these guys. Sound off in the comments there. And also, if you're new here, thanks for joining us. Smash that subscribe button and check us out online as well at silverandblacksportsnetwork.com so you can subscribe to our free Raiders newsletter. It's a one-stop shop for all the latest Raiders news, insights, and analysis, and it's delivered right to your inbox every Friday morning. So, all right, guys, here's the plan of how I'm going to operate this one, okay? It's going to be a little different than how we've done some of our other live shows. I'll go one by one through each of these guys that the Raiders are bringing in. I'll give my breakdown on them, and then we'll go back and forth, diving to the chat to get your guys' take before moving on to the next guy. So again, we'll go with each particular person, and then I'll interact with you guys before diving into my next spiel on each of those guys. So before we do get it rolling, let's take a look in the chat here and see. We got a bunch of people piling in. Appreciate all of you guys joining us on this live show. I love doing these things. They're always so much fun, so I'm really excited for today and what this is going to bring. I love interacting with you guys. So let's dive into it all here now. And obviously, we have to get it rolling with the biggest fish of them all, Tyler Linderbaum. And you guys, you know what? Look, I do owe you an apology here. I was dead ass wrong on this one. I knew that he would be the Raiders' top target, but I didn't think that they were actually going to be able to pull it off and get him. So for that alone, this is a massive win, and I apologize to you guys for being wrong on that one. Big time miss by me. Now, did they overspend? Of course they did. They're paying him $27 million a year. The next closest center in terms of average annual value is Creed Humphrey at $18 million a year. That's a $9 million reset. But does it matter that they overspent? Hell no, it doesn't. He's 25, about to be 26 in April, but he was just the best guy available at the position as well. And at worst, he's the third best center in the league. So worth every penny in that regard. And when you really look at his contract as an interior offensive lineman deal, it's only $3 million per year more than the highest paid guard. So it's really not as crazy as it seems on paper when you really start to dive into all the money of it all. But forget all the talk about the money. This dude is a perfect fit for what Klint Kubiak and the Raiders want to do. And outside of the quarterback, center is the most important position, arguably, in Klint Kubiak's offense. So this is massive for the Raiders, okay? The center is responsible for not only making the protection calls, they also do all the mic checks and any run blocking adjustments as well. And obviously, he's got plenty of experience doing just that in Baltimore. So good luck finding a better guy suited to do that and step in here than Linderbaum. Right off the bat, you love it for Mendoza. Life will be so much easier for him with Linderbaum at the pivot. I mean, this is like a young quarterback's best friend. They always say a tight end is. No, forget that. Tyler Linderbaum is a young quarterback and Fernando Mendoza's best friend. Now, whenever Fernando gets on the field, because I'm sure he won't start right away, at least that's what it seems like, he's going to be loving life with Linderbaum under center there. Now, some will try to poke holes in Linderbaum's pass blocking. Last year, he did allow a career-high 26 pressures, which was the 9th most in the league, and a pressure rate of 5.2%, which was also a career high for him. But here's the thing. This is how you rebut all those folks that try and poke holes in the top prospect that the Raiders just grabbed you, okay? He allowed that pressure in an average of 3.64 seconds, which is the second lowest mark among centers and the best mark of his career, which is something that he accomplished blocking one-on-one nearly 50% of the time. He was blocking one-on-one 49.7% of the time in his pass block sets. That's the highest rate at the position at center of anybody in the league. So the kid was dominant in that regard, blocking one-on-one. So don't let him tell you that he's not a great pass blocker. And on top of all of that, he owns ESPN's 4th highest pass rush win rate last year. So again, do not let anybody tell you that this kid cannot pass block. He did it at a very high level. And then there's this run blocking, and this is the biggest reason why he is coming to Vegas. Throughout his first 4 seasons in the league, he's earned a 91.2 PFF run blocking grade. 91.2, which ranks third among all centers, behind only Frank Ragnow and Creed Humphrey. But guess what? Frank retired, so it's second only to Creed Humphrey in terms of active centers. Not too bad. And also get this, Klint Kubiak ran the ball at the second highest clip last year in Seattle and just got a top 3 guy at doing that. But here's the important part, okay? Klint called zone runs on 58% of Seattle's run plays last year. Zone runs, the wide zone, all that stuff, on 58% of their plays up there in Seattle last season. And Linderbaum owns a 92.4 PFF zone run blocking grade over the last 4 seasons. That's some great consistency, okay? Which is also third best amongst centers. So long story short, this guy is just a perfect fit in every way possible for what Klint and company want to do. And he was a pivotal piece in that Ravens offense that rushed for 156.6 yards per game, which was the second best mark in the NFL. And they produced a league high 5.3 yards per carry. And on top of that, it also solidifies the Raiders offensive line really as a whole. JPJ is now a guard, and we can all move on from all the drama surrounding the whole situation with him and last year's staff. That is now behind us. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders add a guard either in the draft or possibly at free agency, or let Caleb Rogers take a run at it as well. And then the big question becomes, what happens at right tackle? Is it DJ Glaze? Do they feel like he's going in the right direction? He was trending up before last season. Obviously took a big step backwards last year, as most of the offensive line did. Or will Charles Grant show them enough in terms of his development? Or do they just go and either draft or sign someone else there as well at right tackle? We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But overall, you cannot be mad about the Raiders signing Tyler Linderbaum. Not one bit. I mean, this guy was a massive get, the top free agent on the market, and the Raiders got it done and snagged him. So with that, guys, that's my spiel on everything. Let's now start looking into the comments and kind of interacting with a bunch of you guys here on this one, okay? I'm going to be scrolling through some of this before we dive into the rest of the free agents. Like I said, I'm going to hit and give my kind of breakdown and spiel on all these guys, and then start interacting with you guys in there as well. First of all, shout out to BP Raider. You said, I love your comment. You've easily become one of my favorite Raiders content creators, always keeping it 100. I appreciate you for that. I try to keep it 100 as much as I can. DUK Massix, however you say that, said, great channel. Appreciate all of you guys, honestly, seriously. Like, you guys are the man, and the woman. Anytime we got any of the ladies jumping in on the chat as well, I appreciate you guys so much. But let's see. Egalitarian 207 said, Tyler Linderbaum and Quay Walker are my top 2 favorite moves. I've got a lot to say about Quay Walker, so I can't wait to dive into that later on in the show. JC Gonzalez says both linebackers. We're talking about Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker as well. The Raiders definitely spent big at linebacker. That was a big position of need, especially with, 1, all their starters from last year walking out the door in free agency, but also 2, the fact that they're switching to that 3-4. They got to add a lot of bodies in that regard. So I like that. Chango the Dawn says, do we go after Trey Hendrickson? No, I think he's 32 years old, where he's at in his career, where the Raiders are at. As you can see here with what they've done in free agency, they're going after a lot of young guys in that 25 to 27, 28-year-old range. I don't think he fits what their plan is going to be and kind of what they want to do going forward. You know what I mean? So I don't think Hendrickson just makes sense for what they're going to want to do here going forward in the draft. Let's see. Oh, we just got a super chat. Let me jump down to that real fast to get your question. I appreciate you, dude. $10 super chat. Like I said, I never ask for these, but God, I appreciate when you guys do it. Because again, this is my full-time job. This is what I do. I went all in on the Raiders and all in on Silver and Black Sports Network. So any extra cash we're bringing to the fold, I appreciate you guys. Raider Yo 760 said, free agency was lights out this time around. Can't wait to see what we do in the draft. Thanks for all you do. Shout out to you, man. Seriously, look, they crushed it. They were the most aggressive team, and it's not even close. Not even close. They went ham. I think the Panthers had a hell of a free agency. I really liked what they've done so far, but the Raiders were aggressive and brought in really quality young players, just like we had been saying on the channel what they were going to do, that they were going to try and address a lot of positions in need with young quality guys with high upside. That's exactly what they've done. So Raider Yo, you said it right, man. They've crushed it so far, and it's really only just the beginning. Ruben Rust, shout out for the super chat to you too, man. I appreciate you. He said, Spytech is cooking. Feel we are doing it right this time. Couldn't agree more. Spytech cooked. I've seen all the memes of people posting videos of Spytech in a chef's outfit or in the kitchen doing his thing. I loved it. I eat that shit up. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. And so I agree. Like he has been killing it in terms of how they started the free agency, negotiating window, tampering window, all that stuff, because technically it hasn't even started. Doesn't start officially till Wednesday. That's when all those moves will be announced by the team and everything after then, at least. But really, really like what SpyTech has done. They've been aggressive, but again, intelligently aggressive with how they filled this one out. And that to me is the thing that is so much, that is just so interesting about the way that they've done it. Let's see. I kind of lost my spot in here, but let's see. Mr. Raider 76. Shout out to you, dude, because I saw you asking about the live show last night on Twitter. Glad you could join in and get in on this. Anytime you guys are wondering, hit me up on Twitter. I try to reply to the comments. Sometimes there's a lot, so I can't always do it. But like I said, we try and do these shows as often as possible, at least on the live sense, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 when we do go live. But when we drop a pre-recorded podcast, that'll very likely be on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. here in the off season. But I'll make any of those announcements on Twitter and stuff like that as we kind of move along. But Mr. Raider said, Tyler Linderbaum is awesome, but Walker and Dean at linebacker is huge. Thanks for your professionalism, sir. Yeah, shout out to you. I do appreciate that big time. Let's see. Ruben Rust with another super chat. Appreciate you, big dog. You said, what is the reason for the 3-year timeline with these contracts? Is it Kubiak clock? Or so has money to resign his first draft class, to re-sign his first draft classes. Sorry about that. Kind of butchered that as I was reading it. Yeah, look, I like the 3-year deals, even particularly with Linderbaum, and you see it. It's happening a lot around the league, especially with a lot of these younger guys. They want to get paid again when they're still like in their prime. So for Linderbaum, he's about to be 26. It really, they're going to renegotiate this deal with Linderbaum in 2 years. Like, let's be completely honest. They're not going to let it get to that third year. If it does, he and his agent are going to have some problems if he ends up being the guy that they think he's going to be. So with this 3-year deal, though, let's just say it went the full term. He's 29. He wants that next big payday before he hits his 30s. That's why a lot of these agents try to structure it like that. And I also think it's great for the team, and specifically with the Raiders with these 3-year deals, because again, you have these young guys, you're not locking into them for like 5-6 years or anything like that, where like if they don't pan out, you're stuck and you're taking these really big cap hits in order to pay for these things. That's where I think this one makes the most sense for the Raiders, because again, like it's one of those deals where you can get out of the deals if you need to. You know what I mean? And I don't think they're necessarily going to have like the shrewd moves they do, but they're at least shorter term deals. So I dig it for that regard, because again, like I said, you've got the young guys, that have come in, and they're still, when they're up for the payday again, they're like still 28, 29. So you can make an argument to re-sign them when they're on those shorter deals. But two, it just gives you a lot of flexibility. So Ruben Rust, that's kind of my take on why they're doing a lot of these 3-year deals. I think it just, again, as the team sets its foundation, try and set themselves up for long-term success, they want to have flexibility with these 3-year deals. And then also, again, with the young guys that they have coming in the draft as well, just gives them more flexibility overall. Let's see. I want to get to some of the other ones before we dive into the rest of the picks. And the next one that I'm going to go into is both of the linebackers in particular, with Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. So if you guys are looking for a breakdown on that, we'll be getting into it for sure. BP Raider 17 said SpyTech is setting the Raiders up for success for years to come. Couldn't agree more. Realistic Raider, who you got next? I'm real curious to see where this goes, because Tariq Woolen is still out there. The Raiders have spent a lot of money, like I said, about $284 million just on the first day alone. Do they have enough? Can they spread it out to a Tariq Woolen? I don't know. We'll see what the market looks like, but there are still some guys out there. I'm real curious to see, how it ends up going. ItK Raiders 8K15 said 3-year rolling coaster, keep it affordable for long-term success. Couldn't agree more. I dig it. That's like I said, one of the big things why I like that. But a bunch of teams around the league are doing those 3-year contracts. Let's see. Shannon Churchill 4556. What up, Shannon? Shout out to you for the reference on the Bergs. Want everybody to know on there. If and when, both Lindenberg and God, I'm blanking on his name, but both the Bergs, the linebackers, when they make it out on the field, anytime I use the term, the Bergs, the Lineburgers even, that's a shout out to Shannon right there. Let's see. But you said, Shannon, this was a day unlike anything I've seen us do in free agency. Still stunned. I agree. Like, I was, hanging on the couch in the living room watching it with my girlfriend, and I was like, when they signed Linderbaum, I was like, oh my God, they pulled it off. Like, I went nuts because I didn't expect that to happen, because so many times we've seen the Raiders either with money or make some moves where you're just like, what? Like, why'd they throw money at that guy? or like, oh, don't really like that one. This time around, like they went aggressive and they went and got those guys. Like that was the thing that I think was really, really interesting about the way they did it. So really like what they did on day one. Again, one, spending the money because they had to, they have it. But two, making the shrewd moves and shrewd decisions was the big thing. Fabrizio 7708 said they still have 79 mil to spend according to Vinny. Yeah, so still a lot of money. And they're going to try, like I said, spread that around with the younger guys. That's why, again, keep an eye on Riq Woolen. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they go and do that. Raider Yo 760, shout out again for the super chat, man. I appreciate you and anybody that ends up doing that. Again, it's an easy way to get your question asked because it jumps right up to the top there for me. Again, I'm not asking everyone to do it, but I do appreciate it when you guys do it. So Raider Yo 760 said, so I know we have to save like 30 to 35 mil for draft picks. How much more you think we can do in free agency? Well, again, so if they've got 79 million left, according to Vinny, let's just say 35 mil in terms of what they've got to account for the draft. That's what's going to be interesting is like, okay, you cut that in half. So like 30, 42 mil. I'm not the greatest at math. I get paid to talk, but about 42 mil or so to be able to spend in free agency. Again, I think they spread that around to a handful of guys, but I still do think that they can make a big swing at a guy like a Riq Woolen or something like that. So again, keep your eyes out on the market. Like we'll be kind of keeping tabs on it as well. And also too, for you guys, because I've got a lot going on of my setup here, I can't see a lot of the moves that are going on. Like obviously I got my phone in case I get any word from anybody on some moves, but if you guys see a move that the Raiders make, let me know. Hit me in the comments so that we can break it down live on here. Let's see. Shannon, I saw you jumped in with a super chat as well. Shout out to you. You said, what do you feel is still on the free agent shopping list, and what do you think we should wait for to address in the draft? Really good question here, Shannon. I like that one because basically, so on the free agent shopping list, I'm sure they'll add some more offensive linemen. They probably add a guard as like, I think they add a guard as like a safety blanket for them because I'm real curious to see how they feel. Obviously, we know JPJ, they feel good about him. He's going to be the starter, very likely at right guard. I would imagine that they probably move Caleb, right guard or left guard, honestly. He could probably play both. But I think that they move Caleb Rogers, probably the left guard would be my read on it, and they let him kind of roll with it. But maybe they sign one more guy, as like a backup spot or whatever it is, or a guy to be able to compete and just kind of push guys as that like safety blanketed free agency. Let's see what else. Corner. I would not be shocked to see them address corner again in free agency. Is it going to be the big swing like the Riq Woolen? Probably not. That I think is probably a more like wishful thinking. But I bet you they maybe add like another corner. They did interview with a handful of corners in the draft. Let's see what else off the top of my head. There is a chance they go right tackle. I mean, Braden Smith, I believe, is still out there. He's an older guy. I don't love the move. It doesn't fit necessarily what they've been doing, but that could be something. But honestly, just in terms of the draft, like I'm not worried about addressing nose tackle here in free agency. It's a lot of older guys. I would address nose tackle in the draft. There are a lot of those guys that are available, in the second round and beyond that are those like 330, 320 plus, like just like gap stuffers. You know what I mean? So like D Hunter is one guy in particular that I think could end up being there at the top of the second round. If he's not there, maybe Caden. Well, we'll see. Between Lee Hunter and also Caden McDonald, those are two guys that I think could possibly be there at the top of the second round for the Raiders. If not, I really like the kid from Syracuse, Dominique Orange. He's been available in a lot of the mock drafts that I've done in the third round. That I think would be another guy, like just like a space plugger. The kid from Florida State is it Daryl Jackson Jr. or something like that. I forget his name, but he's another one possible like third round beyond that they can keep an eye on. So nose tackle is something I think they can do. Linebacker, just in terms of other depth pieces, again, I think they go maybe like third round or just day 3 addressing linebacker in the draft. Safety, there are so many good safeties in this draft. If you can't find a good safety in this draft, you've got some issues. So I think they wait and address safety in the draft, even corner as well. Like I said, they very well may, because they brought Stokes back, who we'll get into a bit here. They very well may not try to, sign another guy in free agency. They may just say, hey, look, we're going to go back to the draft with that as well. I think guard is at the top of the second, could be an option there with a kid from Oregon. He could be available, Pregnon, and he is one hell of a run blocker, solid kid overall. I'd be real curious to see if maybe he's an option for them. So it's a super long-winded answer to your question there, Shannon, so I apologize there. But yes, I do believe that in terms of the draft, let's just say this. I'll simplify it. Nose tackle, I think you wait in the draft. Safety, I think you wait in the draft. Fullback, obviously now at this point, they're probably going to hit that pretty late in the draft as well. I will even wait and hit on right tackle in the draft as well. I don't love signing right tackles on the open market unless there's just like a no doubter, and none of those guys are out there in my mind at right tackle on the free agent market. Guard, I could see them signing somebody. Even in the draft, there's a handful of decent guards as well. Receiver, I bet you they wait and address receiver as well in the draft too. I don't think we see anybody coming in, in that regard. Edge rusher could be kind of interesting to see how they approach it in terms of who's on the open market and everything. But again, really like some of the edge rushers as well. There's just a really deep draft overall. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they approach that. Let's see. A lot of people talking about Geno and the money and stuff with him. One thing that is interesting is with Geno and what his contract was. What was it like? I think they saved like $8.5 million. That essentially accounts for the Taron Johnson trade. And we talk about this later on in the show here, but I just want to hit on this real quick before we start diving back into the rest of the guys. But with Taron Johnson, he essentially accounts and eats up what they saved with Geno in terms of his cap hit. So that's kind of how I view that one. Let's see. Mr. Raider 76 said, Raider Nation, we did tell all our fellow Raider Nation members about Jesse Merrick and the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast so we can boost his subscribers. Go Raiders. Hey, seriously, I appreciate that. Tell a friend. Share the love. Tell them about the brand. Like I said, we're still in year one. We're growing this thing. For those of you guys that aren't fully familiar with me, I used to work at NBC here in Las Vegas. I did that for 6 years. Covered the Raiders last season in Oakland and all their seasons since they moved here to Las Vegas. And, my contract was coming up. We signed 2-year deals more often than not, but then I went on a lot of 1-year deals over at NBC. And I just had the idea to do something like this. And I had an idea to do this for quite a while, but really solidified it over the last, year, or probably 8 months before I left. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to try and build something new and see what I can do with it. And that's how the Silver and Black Sports Network was birthed. So again, I love it. I'm all in on this. And you guys have been so awesome to me throughout the whole part of it all. Let's see. TNVG238 said Ione or Spencer Fanu at 14. Isn't Ione? Ione is the kid out of Penn State. He's not a great fit for what the Raiders want to do. So that's not where I think they could do that. He's not a good mover. He's more of like a gap scheme in your face, like, boom, I'm going to run you over type of blocker. So I don't think he'd be a good fit there. But Spencer Fanu could be very interesting. He is super, super athletic. All right, guys, I want to get back into the spiel on these free agents, and we'll come back and hit on it in a second in the chat here, because now I do want to get to both of the linebackers. Again, we're going to lump in Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker together on this one, all right? The two former Georgia Bulldogs who were both teammates at Georgia, also with Eric Stokes as well. These guys are both just 25 years old. Again, sticking with that trend of injecting a bunch of young talent onto this roster. For Nakobe Dean, the big issue has been staying healthy. He's only played in 30 games the last 3 seasons. Obviously, that's not great, but when he is healthy, he is a dog and one of the more effective blitzing linebackers that you're going to see in the game. His speed and awareness and aggressiveness, they are off the charts. His career, for his total career, he's given an 83.6 QBR in coverage, okay? So he is good in coverage. And with that athleticism, you can feel pretty good about dropping him back in his zone coverage and not be too worried about matching him up with a running back or tight ends when they are in man coverage and things like that. I do think the Raiders are going to play a ton of zone, though, to be completely honest. And when he is called upon to tackle, he will get the job done. He's got just a 9.8% missed tackle rate over the last 2 seasons. You'll love to hear that. Then there's Walker. He has been highly productive, notching over 100 tackles in all 4 of his seasons in the league. However, he has seen his struggles in coverage, earning a 44.9 PFF coverage grade this year, which ranked 70th out of 80 qualifying linebackers, and he allowed a 108.3 passer rating when targeted. Now, his run defense grade was not much better at just 54.4, which ranks 74th among qualified linebackers. But again, he is just 25, is a short tackler, owning just an 8% career missed tackle rate, according to PFF, and has very high upside, okay? I love the Dean signing. I'm not as high, admittedly, on Quay, but I can see why they did it. He honestly just, and this is, a lot of you guys aren't going to love this, to me feels like a younger Devin White. Again, I'd love to be proved wrong about that, but overall, they shored up their inside linebacker spots with guys who are aggressive and can tackle really, really well And that's the part that should be music to your guys' ears. Obviously, we have seen plenty of tackling issues here in Las Vegas over the years with both of these guys and their athleticism. We're obviously going to see plenty of sim pressures and some real exotic blitzes and things like that should be really effective for Rob Leonard, especially with Dean. Overall, Robbie's going to have a lot of fun with both of these guys. And I do think they still look to add some backers in the draft as well, kind of like alluded to earlier. At this point, they're probably going to do it at the earliest in the third round. I don't think that's going to be the case, so I'll be honest. Unless there's like a guy that they just cannot pass up. I would imagine now they zero in on those linebackers, probably on day 3 of the draft. Maybe a Torian York is a guy that's available from Texas A&M at some point. One thing I will say about Quay Walker, and I've been kind of tough on him just with the signing and stuff like that because I don't love the numbers on paper. But when you watch the tape, the kid seems to have really good vision. He's able to sort through a lot of the mess in front of him and always just seems to find the ball. So, again, I'm really, really interested to see how he pans out for the Raiders. I like the upside on it. Again, both of these guys, like when healthy, they should be really, really good. Raider Nation 510 said, we signed Nakobe Dean over Devin Lloyd. So ridiculous. Okay, so the point on that one, too, it sounds like Devin Lloyd was hoping to be able to get 20 mil a year. He ended up getting 15. So obviously they settled. He was going for like this massive contract. And yes, the Raiders very well could have paid him that. And I don't think any of us would have been mad about it. Getting Linderbaum and Devin Lloyd would have been insane. But you get Dean on a lesser amount per year. I don't have the numbers in front of me of what they're actually paying him. Sorry. But it is less than that. And I think so probably Devin Lloyd was holding out thinking he was going to get more, ends up settling for 15 mil a year. So that's the thing where I'm like, yes, they missed on him and maybe have picked, Nakobe Dean over him. But there's also the familiarity with Rennell Williams, who is the new linebacker coach, who was also Dean's linebacker coach in Philadelphia. Got a lot out of him when he was healthy and played, I believe it was 15 games in the 2024 season when they went to the Super Bowl. So you've got to love that. Big time. Let's see. Raider Yo 760 said, man, I was thinking like 6 wins before free agency, but hang on. I just lost the chat there. Raider Yo 760 said, man, I was thinking like 6 wins before free agency, but after what we've seen, dare we think 8 wins now? Hey, look, that might be, let's not get too excited. I will say this. So this is a big step in the right direction. And I'll be honest, I was thinking if they could win 6 games next season before free agency, before the draft, all that stuff, I was like, that'd be massive improvement for them. And if they won 6 games and their losses were, competitive or close, then it would be really interesting for me. But now, who knows? Like they just seem to be building a good team. We got to see what they do in the draft and the rest of the way in free agency. But they have injected a lot of good, younger leaning talent into this roster. And I love what they've been doing so far. Let's see. Dave S 2026 said, and we also got Kwity Paye for the D-line. Exactly. And I'm going to be diving into Kwity in just a second here, but I want to hit the chat before we do so. Let's see. Ruben Fernandez said, do you see the nose tackle position being filled in the draft? Yeah, earlier I mentioned in the show, I think nose tackle is a spot they can lean in the draft. There's a bunch of really good guys in there, that's going to be that are really good options in there. Let's see. Dominic 5 said, facts, Dean can't stay healthy, so we still need to draft a linebacker early. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be early. And yes, look, you can't just like magically cure a player's injury history, but it is worth noting Alex Guerrero, who, yes, was the talk of the town and a bunch of different things, which I think a lot of that was totally overblown recently. But he comes in last year, and all of a sudden, the Raiders are tops in the league in terms of injuries, or not sustaining injuries. They were the healthiest team in the league last year is essentially what I'm trying to say. They only lost 83 games to injury last year. Maybe Alex Guerrero and Tom Brady kind of figured a little bit of something out. They fix and cure a lot of those like soft tissue injuries, which I believe are some of the things that Dean has struggled with. So maybe they can come in and help and cure those things. Again, if he stays healthy, that kid is a dog in every sense of the word. Miguel Calderon, 4840, said Spy had to put players in league on notice. We take care of Raiders, so we overpaid to prove it. One other thing that's interesting, too, I agree with that. They got all this money. Why not overpay to get the guys that you want? I won't be mad about that, not one bit. And 2, like, there was this narrative out there that like, are the Raiders going to be able to convince people to come here? And look, with Linderbaum, I bought into that narrative. But as we see, like young, talented players, yes, the Raiders are paying top dollar, but they want to come here. They believe in the vision for what it's going to be. You know what I mean? They think they can come here, ball out, and kind of do their thing and get paid again, whether it's here in Las Vegas or somewhere else. So like guys are already buying into what's going on here in Las Vegas. You guys have seen the report cards. The Raiders ranked 6th in terms of like how players graded out the different franchises on so many different things. And that was honestly the only reason they were 6th was because there were so many bad grades on the coaching side of things. All the people that had really bad grades have been fired. But in terms of facilities and, the staff behind the scenes, like the athletic staff and trainers and all those different things and the facilities and the way that they're treated, their families, all those things, like they've graded really, really high in that aspect of things. So again, like people love Las Vegas and the Raiders and what they have to offer. And we're in a no state income tax city, state. Like that is massive. That alone is huge for these guys. I'll never forget when Cleveland Farrell, and Jonathan Abrams were drafted by the Raiders. Obviously, they got drafted to play in the Bay Area for that last season. But the year that they were moving here, I remember I went to a car dealership. They were doing a signing, and the two of them and also Josh Jacobs were all dancing, like jumping up and down, saying like, "No state income tax, no state income tax." It was hilarious. They were loving that. Like that's one of my favorite stories about those guys because obviously it didn't work out for two of those dudes, once they came here to Vegas. But I thought that was interesting because it's like it's very clear these guys know there's lots of money, millions and millions of dollars on the line. I mean, you can come and not pay state income taxes on it. That's a big one for sure. Let's see. I did see somebody just said something about the offensive line, so I want to make sure I hit that. Oh, okay, here. James F. 7852 said signing a center doesn't fix the O-line completely. Need a guard and right tackle. DJ Glaze isn't the answer. So look, it seems that the staff does like DJ. I will say that. I want to make sure I throw that out there. And I do think that DJ was trending in the right direction before last year. I liked what he was bringing to the table, and I was higher on him before last season. Again, this staff that was here last year, every offensive lineman took a big step backwards, DJ included. I did not like what I saw out of DJ on the right side of the offensive line. If they can get a guy, let's say a top tackle falls to him at some point in the draft, like you go and take him 100%. And yes, they still do need to figure something out of guard, but I do like what Caleb Rogers brings to the table. And as a third-round pick, like that's not like a nothing pick invested into it. I think they want to see what they have in him. Caleb has been there working out every single day since he was able to once the season was over. Spytek gave him a shout out and noted how hard he's been working. So this is a kid that like one has his head on straight, played pretty well last year when he did get the opportunity. So I think they're going to give him a shot. That's just my read on it, but I would love to see the Raiders bring in another guard and make it a little interesting for sure. Let's see. Dominique 5 said Pacheco's signing with the Lions. Yeah, that one's interesting. Mr. Angry Runs himself. I'm super, super interested to see, how that kind of pans out for him. Because that's a guy that's really fun to watch. I like him going to the Lions for sure. Raider Nation 510 said, should we go after Rachaad White? Look, I've made it completely open and honest about the fact that I'm a Bucs fan. I love Rachaad White. I'm big on that one. That's one that I think would make a lot of sense for the Raiders to bring here. Obviously, he's got the tie-in with Spytek, so keep an eye on how that kind of transpires. But and Adam Stewart, thank you for the super chat, dude. I'll get to this one in just a sec. I just want to complete the thought here. But in terms of Rachaad White, I think he could come in and be a really good option for him. He's obviously got some of the receiving chops, but this is a guy that I broke down in our free agency preview, which let me see if I can pull up my notes on him real fast and try and find this in here. Because I liked what he brought to the table, and I think he's a guy that could be a very interesting fit for the Raiders and what they want to do. Here we go. Here's my notes on Rachaad White. I'll just read these for you. Obviously, again, he's got the ties to Spytek. He did have some issues with ball security in his first 3 seasons, but he cleaned a lot of that up after last year and didn't have a fumble all season long. And he's coming off of a really good season. He graded in the 98th percentile in gap runs. And this is the key here, in the 94th percentile on zone runs. Again, Klint Kubiak called zone runs 56 or 58% of the time, if my memory serves me right. To me, he'd be the one that I would want to bring in, if they do go that route in free agency. I think that would be really interesting. Okay, so Adam Stewart, again, shout out for the super chat, man. Really appreciate you. Let's see what we got here. Looking at Spot Track, 71 million over the cap, says 82 million for cap space. Both missing a few contracts. Koonce, Stokes, Walker, Geno, dead cap hit, 8 mil. Looking more around 40 to 50 mil. So yeah, let's kind of stick with like the $40 million range there. I'll be completely honest. Like the tracking of the numbers is always so tough. Like I would wait till Wednesday to see like what the Raiders really, really have. That's going to be something to kind of keep an eye on there. But it is interesting to see what they have, how much money they have to spend. But it does feel like it is right around that $40 million range. I would just say maybe earmark like 35 mil to be able to throw around. But again, it's probably more towards like the $40 million range of what they can still start to do out there. Okay, guys, I'm having fun jumping in the chat, but I do want to keep some of the analysis going so this thing doesn't go like 50 hours because I could just sit here and talk with you guys all day long. I love doing it. But let's now get to Kwity Paye because this is another interesting kind of lightning rod type player where people stand on both sides of it. All right, here's my breakdown. This is a guy that's coming off of a down season, admittedly, after posting 16.5 sacks in 2023 and 2024 combined. He did take a step back when Lou Anarumo came to town and replaced Gus Bradley, all right? According to ESPN, he finished last in pass rush win rate among edge defenders at 4.5%. ESPN does come up with this stat based off of how often a pass rusher can beat his block within 2.5 seconds, whereas PFF has his pass rush win rate at 13.5%, which counts pass rush wins anytime before the ball is released. I will say this, I don't want to say pass rush win rate anymore. I hate saying that stat. It's so hard to say, but I'll say it one more time. Through PFF's rankings, that 13.5% pass rush win rate ranked 101st among edge defenders. So still not great in terms of his pass rush win rate. However, you look at the stat or what he earned on it based off of different people's metrics. But the long story short on him is that the Raiders are hoping for a bounce back from him. He can revert to more of what we saw from him in Gus Bradley's defense and more of what he was at Michigan because he was a freak there. Now, it is worth noting that he was a hand in the dirt defensive end under Gus Bradley and transitioned to a stand-up outside linebacker spot more often than not with Lou Anarumo. And when he does come here to Las Vegas, he very likely is going to be a stand-up outside linebacker in Rob Leonard's defense. But he does have some positional versatility. He's a little bigger than I think people realize, but I just don't think he fits as a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end in a 3-4. So again, very likely an outside linebacker rushing from a stand-up game in that spot for him. And what you want him to come in and do from day one is just obviously be more consistent as a pass rusher, but two, you want him to come in and set the edge and stop the run, which is something that he's actually been pretty good at most of his career. Get this, since 2022, he's got a 77.5 PFF run defense grade, which is 16th best among edge rushers, okay? So not bad in that regard. He's been really good at setting the edge and overall just like stopping the run. So that's an area where I could see him coming in and having some success. You know what I mean? Let's see. Let me jump into the chat here and dive into some of what you guys have. Ooh, Isaiah 000 said, let's draft Bud Clark for free safety. I really like Bud Clark. I really like him. We're going to dive into Taron Johnson, later on the show here, but Bud Clark could be like a real souped up version of him. Obviously Bud is more of that like stand up free safety spot, but man, he can come down and play the nickel spot really well. I like Bud Clark, especially after talking to Matt Holder from Tape Don't Lie. Again, shout out to those guys. We're going to have Marcus on the show, within the coming week or so here. But really, really like what he brings to the table in terms of Bud Clark. That's one for sure. Let's see. James F7852 said, going into the season, depending on the same O-lineman who sucked last year is foolish. Sign a league average guard or right tackle. If one of our current guys develop, great. If they don't, we aren't screwed. Okay, agreed. But this staff comes in with like awesome offensive line chops. Like, first of all, look at the offensive lines that Kubiak has worked with. And last year up in Seattle, they had an undrafted free agent at center who didn't do a whole lot the year before. And they came in and just like really elevated that offensive line. That O-line was below league average 2 years ago. Last year, boom, jumped up in a big way. A lot of that has to do with the coaches that they had there. Obviously, John Benton, who stayed up there in Seattle, a big reason why. But Rick Dennison, this is a guy that has chops coaching in this offense at a bunch of different levels, whether it's OC or different coordinator spots, whatever. Like, this guy has done it in this offense for decades. I mean, he has a PhD in running this Shanahan/Kubiak scheme. And Rick Dennison has always been able to elevate the offensive lines that he's been a part of. So they're coming in and believe that, like, he's going to be able to elevate any group, even if they ran it back with a lot of those guys. Because let's be real, whether it was this staff or previous staffs, the Raiders have invested a lot of picks and decent round picks as well. A lot of picks in that like third to fourth round range, even second with JPJ in the offensive line. So there's been a lot of investment there. I think they think there's more, meat left on the bone, going forward with them. Let's see what else we got here in the chat. Football Wisdom 1 said, personally, I like Keaton Mitchell as RB2 over Rashad White. However, Spytek is clearly inclined to bring in players from his past, and I could live with that and then maybe draft RB3 on day 3. Yeah, That could be a way with doing it. I don't mind Keaton Mitchell at all. But again, I just really like, Rachaad White. Like he's one for sure that I'm a fan of. ItK Raiders 8K, whatever you're sorry, dude, that's a crazy name to say. What are you talking about? $20 sandwiches. I don't know where that one came from. Let's see. Who else we got in here? Bat Crime said, we have Grant as right tackle. We can slide Glaze as a left guard. We have Paula Mao as a safety, but we need more competition there as well as cornerback. Look, Grant, we only have 2.5 quarters to go off of. Yes, he is intriguing. He played well in those 2.5 quarters, but I can guarantee you, like, they're not just going to roll into the season and be like, yeah, Charles Grant's our right tackle. Like, I get it. I know why you guys are excited about him, but like pump the brakes a little bit on the Charles Grant stuff. You can't just throw him out there ahead of DJ Glaze, who's been starting as long as he has, no matter if he struggled or not. Like, I think we need to kind of wait and see on Charles Grant. Let this staff kind of work with him and see what he develops into. Again, an intriguing guy, but I want to see what all these guys do with this staff. I do think, again, they're still probably going to add a right tackle, whether it's a bargain guy in free agency or, again, bringing somebody in the draft. Again, if they can get a no-doubter, I like the kid from Clemson. There's a Blake Miller, I believe. I really like him from Clemson. I think he's a guy that could come in and do some big, big things, with the Raiders, honestly, or just in the league, no matter where he ends up going. But that's a guy I'd be keeping an eye on possibly in the second, or if they happen to trade back from 14 for whatever reason, maybe a team wants to jump up, the Raiders trade back, and boom, you get Blake Miller. Then you're set on both sides with Colton and them. In terms of, let's see, Polomau, yeah, that's a guy that I was a little let down by. I'm real curious to see what this year looks like for him. But again, just how talented this safety draft class is. They're going to bring some guys in. I think that Polomau, even though last year was his first year as a starter, he's going to be competing big time for playing time. So, again, that's something to keep an eye on, how that transpires for Polomau. Did not see enough from him too many times, missing tackles or getting beat deep because he bites on stuff or just not being the deepest guy back there. So I wasn't super impressed with him. And again, yeah, needs to be more competition at corner. I like Darian Porter, what he brings to the table, but inject some more into that cornerback room on the outside because, again, Taron Johnson is going to be the guy on the outside doing a lot of that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So ItK Raiders, NK85. Why'd we choose Matt Gay over Daniel Carlson? I'll be getting into that later on in the show, so keep an eye on that. Let's see. Raider Nation 510 said, can we sign Reek Woolen and draft McNeil Warren? Wow, that would be a lot to do all of that. If you guys signed Reek Woolen, that would be massive. And then getting, McNeil Warren on top of that. That's a guy that I really like, a dude that I think could really come in and unlock the defense if he's available to them. Who knows? Obviously, that could be an option at 14 if they really like him. Or there's a chance he even slides to the second. A couple of the mock drafts I've done, he's been available there. But that's a guy that I really like. After talking with, Cody Alexander, he really likes the kid out of Toledo as well. So that's another dude I'd be keeping an eye on. Let's see. Dominique_5 said, I don't think Ione fits that wide zone scheme that the Raiders are going to run. Yeah, no, he doesn't. That's the thing. He is more of a gap scheme guy. He doesn't move very well in space. He is a big, big dude and more of a like, hey, we're going to run those gap schemes and I'm just going to run right through your face. So as much as I like him as a prospect, I just don't think he's the right fit for the Raiders. That's the thing where I just don't think there's going to be a lot. I don't think there's going to be a chance that they take him there. That's going to be the thing for me, honestly. Let's keep this thing rolling, guys, because I want to talk about some offensive guys too, okay? Obviously, we talked about Linderbaum, but as a former receiver myself, for those of you guys who don't know, it was Division II/NAI. I didn't play any big-time college football or anything like that, but I was a wide receiver at Azusa Pacific University, so I love talking about receivers, and that's where we're going to be talking about Jalen Naylor. He is a very interesting high upside guy, okay? He was third fiddle to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison for the last handful of years there in Minnesota. Those are obviously legit receivers, so you can't be mad at him for being quote-unquote like buried on the depth chart behind those guys. And he honestly seems like a guy that will thrive with much more opportunity. On his 49 targets last year, he only had one drop. So he is very, very sure-handed. He's speedy, runs a 4.5, but honestly plays faster than that, and he can separate from guys. He had a lot of success, particularly on out-breaking routes, and he's worked both in the slot and out wide. So Klint is going to be able to move him all over the formation. Look for him to be used on a ton of different motions and things like that. We saw how Smith did that, how Klint did that up in Seattle. He loves the motions. I think they run motion on like 60% of their plays or something like that. And some people I get you guys. Some people might go nuts here. But here's what I'm thinking, okay? Maybe the Raiders are hoping that Jalen Naylor can come in and be like their poor man's version of Jackson Smith and Jigba, okay? I'm curious for your guys' thoughts on that, because just watching him, the little bit that I have, to me, he seems like he could be their version of a JSN in this offense, just with how much they're going to be moving him around. And again, the positional versatility in the slot, out wide. They actually have similar body types. JSN is a little bit taller, only about like an inch, and weight-wise, they're exactly the same. Not that that always matters, but I really think he's an interesting piece. This is a guy that a lot of like the stat nerds and things like that, the analytics community, think is primed, for a interesting, basically for a big year is kind of what I'm getting at there. So I really like this Jalen Naylor signing. He's also a Vegas kid. He played at Bishop Gorman just down the road as well. So I'm going to be really interested to see how that goes. Raiders. I don't want to keep saying your handle. I'm sorry, man. It's tough for me to say. But you said JSN equals JRN, Jalen Rashid Naylor. I like that. Yeah, he is kind of like a combo of all of those guys, right? Let's see. Who else we got in here? What else we got? Tate over Lemon. Yeah, look, of course. Tate's a freak. I just don't think he's going to be there, honestly, at 14. I'd be shocked if he is there. We'll have to see. Let's see what else we got. A lot of you guys talking about Lemon. Yeah, I know there's been some weird things about there. Again, I don't know if he's a weirdo or not. Obviously, he went viral for the whole thing, and I've heard and read some things where people are talking about the teams have kind of graded him down. But I look, the guy is still one heck of a player. Do the Raiders take him? I don't know. I think they'll probably go best player available with signing Jalen Naylor and the rest of the guys that they have in the offense in the receiving core. I wouldn't be shocked to see them not go receiver at 14, honestly. A lot of people saying they'd rather have Tyson. I think Tyson's a dog. For whatever reason, I just have a weird feeling about Tyson from Arizona State. And I said this before on the last podcast. My girlfriend went there. All her brothers did. Her family is like big ASU fans. Her dad loves the guy. Has said he's a great character guy. I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about the kid. For some reason, I think he's like primed for like being a diva. And again, I could be totally wrong. I don't know him as a person. Just watching him in the body language, the couple games that I did watch last year of his, I was like, not really loving it. Let's see. BP Raider 17 said, what do you think the asking price is for Brian Thomas Jr.? That's the one thing I'm really curious about. Obviously, he struggled with drops in recent years, but that's a guy that has been very productive for the most part of his career. He'd be an interesting option at wide receiver. When we talked to Vinny, he brought it up as well. They're obviously shopping him. I don't know what it would be, honestly. Like, maybe you can get him for a third-round pick. I really don't know. I need to dive into that a bit more, but I am curious to see what that's like. Let's see. Raider Yo 760, shout out for the super chat again, man. I appreciate you. You've been real active in the chat. You said, I know SpyTech likes picks. What are the chances we trade back at 14? I think there's a really good chance that the Raiders trade back at 14. Talking to a lot of folks, whether it's in the media or with you guys, and just spitballing with other friends of mine around the NFL world, they think there's a good chance that the Raiders trade back because, like, look, let's say at 14, someone falls in love with Ty Simpson, okay, from Alabama, the quarterback there. Maybe for whatever reason they want to jump up. And again, maybe he's like more of the Kenny Pickett type of guy that ends up sliding back, and I could totally see that. But if somebody really falls in love with him, they could jump up and get him there. Or if he's available, Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, if he's available, maybe somebody really likes him, like maybe the Eagles or the 49ers even. And I know they have George Kittle, but imagine adding Sadiq into that Niners offense. There's some word that they're looking at him and kind of what he could do. Maybe they want to jump up and trade into a spot there. So I could see them trading back, and I think that'd be a shrewd move, to be completely honest. Not that I don't like any of the guys that are there. I think they get some awesome players at 14, but I think there's some real value for positions of need in the back end of the first round. So I would love to see the Raiders trade back. I'd love to see SpyTech, get more in there. Let's see. Shannon Churchill said trade back. I'm thinking we might be able to package some picks and get up for a third pick in the first round. So you're saying 3 first-round picks, Shannon? You want them to trade back up into the first, like late first? Also wouldn't rule that out. Prior to, them trading Crosby and all that stuff, there were a lot of people saying that they thought that the Raiders were going to figure out a way to get an extra first-round pick, more so, in late first round. That could be the case. I mean, God, some moving and shaking. I would not. I mean, who wouldn't be happy to see the Raiders have 3 first-round picks? That would be insane if they go and do that. I see you're saying that you think the Rams are going to take Simpson at 13. there is a world where that happens. I don't have the draft order in front of me right now, and so I forget off the top of my head. But yeah, there's a chance that they do take him there. If they don't, though, maybe somebody wants to jump up, and then maybe there's not as many like landing spots and stuff like that. So let's see. Truth's Finest said, respectfully, we have enough picks. How did trading back work out last year? No, yeah. Hey, look, and that's a fair thing to be able to say and throw out there, man. Look, they've got 11 picks. That's a lot of picks and a lot of draft capital. And then obviously 2 first-round picks last year or next year. But the depth in this draft is so good. And it's like you may be missing, outside of the first round, obviously, some of these like super heavy, impactful, like all pro caliber players. But there's a lot of really good players who could come in and start and just be really solid players in the league. And that's, I think, where we've seen over the years when there's drafts like that teams are willing to trade back and continue to stockpile picks and things like that. So again, real curious to see how it ends up going. But yeah, I don't think they need to jump up. That's the really big thing I'm interested to see, though. But it's interesting because it makes our job, more fun, honestly. Let's see, guys. Here, I'm going to keep it rolling here. We'll jump back into the chat in a sec, but I want to dive into some of the next guys of kind of what they did. All right, and these ones aren't necessarily new signings, but on defense, again, the Raiders also brought Malcolm Koonce back on a 1-year, $11 million deal. Same one that he got last year, actually. Now, Koonce obviously has a ton of experience with new defensive coordinator Rob Leonard. He's been his D-line coach here for the Raiders for the last 3 seasons. So, this is a move that Rob signed off on. And that move to a 3-4 defense, honestly, really shapes up well for Koonce to stand up and come off of the edge as an outside linebacker, which is more of what he did back in college at Buffalo. And get this, last year, Koonce's 14.4% PFF pass rush win rate, which is a word that I didn't want to say again, was in the 73rd percentile. So actually not bad, even though he wasn't like super impactful. He did fare better than I think most of us thought. He also earned a 66.1 PFF run defense grade and a 6.8% stop rate. Now, he'll be 28 when the season kicks off and 2 years removed from that ACL injury, which I think honestly took him quite a while to get back from mentally more than anything else. So this is a big opportunity for him to show Kubiak in this new staff what he's got. Again, another prove-it deal for him. So still at his age, like he's got room to grow, and maybe this new staff can get some more out of him. I know he's worked with Leonard already, but maybe with Leonard calling the shots, maybe it unlocks him a little more. And again, this churn to the 3-4 defense, even though they're not going to be sitting in that base defense as often, is very interesting to me. So again, I like bringing Koonce back. I think it was interesting. Yeah, re-signing Snowden. Yeah, they're bringing Snowden back as well. That's one that I really like too. He, again, translates very well as that stand-up backer. Tyree Wilson, another interesting piece where I think he translates more to like your hand in the dirt defensive end. He can also stand up and rush from the outside as well. So just some interesting pieces, for all of them. Let's see. BP Raider 17 said, is there a Sammy Watkins / Amari Cooper debate in this year's wide receiver draft? That I don't know for sure, but man, the kid from Indiana, Omar Cooper Jr., he's a savage. I'd love to see a way for the Raiders to be able to snag him. Again, he's very likely, and I think someone just said that here. Gazebo777 said Cooper will not be there at 36. Yeah, agreed. He ain't going to be there. Dave S. Oh, I'm glad you commented that one again, Dave. Dave S. 2026 said, take a flyer on Ashawn Robinson. I went to look up his age real quick. Robinson age. Let's see. He's 30 years old. Not that that's like ancient by any means. And I liked Ashawn Robinson when he was at Alabama. But it's honestly, yeah, you could take a flyer on him. But I think, again, they're trying to inject those like that young talent onto their team so that they have the option to re-sign these guys and keep them in-house for a while. So I personally wouldn't go the Ashawn Robinson route. Again, just because there are so many good options in the draft at nose tackle that you can feel pretty comfortable that the Raiders are going to be able to get them. Whether that's at the top of the second or in the third, like there's guys there at those positions. So I'm not going, I'm not going the route of an Ashawn Robinson personally there, Dave. But again, would not hate it. It's not the end of the world, but there are just so many good nose tackles and space eaters that they can hit on in the draft that will be there available to them. So that's why I think they're okay with punting on that. And it is a very key position, and you don't want to risk it there. But maybe they reach on somebody, at the top of the second too, or something like that, But they'll be able to find a good nose tackle because, again, there's so many guys on day 2 and day 3 in the draft that could fit that. Like I said, the kid out of FSU, whether it's Dominique Orange as well, who I really like, or again, if Lee Hunter or Caden McDonald end up sliding down, to the top of the second or something like that too. Those are guys that I think would be an option, to come in. Let's see. Who else we got in here? Any chance? Yeah, Truth's Finest. Any chance we were talking to Braden Smith right now and bring him in, or Rasheed Walker? Yeah, those are two interesting ones. Braden Smith would fit. That's a guy that could make some sense. But again, with his age, and you look at the situation they just left there in Indianapolis, they moved on because they wanted to get younger at right tackle. He's also struggled with injuries as well. I think, again, I think the Raiders like their current situation at right tackle, even though you guys don't love DJ Glaze. But then obviously we throw Charles Grant into the mix there as well. I think they're willing to wait at right tackle, see what the draft holds, and then if need be, they run it back with DJ Glaze, to be completely honest. I just think that's the case. Yeah, okay, so pronounced RKDO said Braden Smith just signed with Houston. So that takes that one off of the table there. Maybe Rasheed Walker, possibly. But again, I just don't see them signing a right tackle. Like, over the years, when you really look at it, a lot of the right tackle signings in free agency haven't worked out for a lot of teams. That is where I think, again, you can punt on it in free agency. And Gabe Gazebo 777 brings up a good point. Let Glaze and Grant battle out for that right tackle spot, in your opinion. I agree. I agree on that one. Let them battle it out there. Or, again, once you get to the draft, if one of those guys that you just cannot pass up slides to you, whether it's at 14, maybe one of those guys is there, the kid out of Utah, for instance, or, again, at the top of the second, if the kid Ian Anchor from Arizona State, if he's there, you go and get him, because he, again, is still young at the position, but God, the upside and the length and all that stuff, totally there. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with that. TJIF 12 SFB said, Chase on, please. Yeah, I think he'd be an interesting one to bring back. Obviously, Rob Leonard got a lot out of him. I think that would be something that's interesting to keep an eye on. If he comes back, I really like that move for the Raiders. Let's see, Shannon, I saw you just commented. Where'd that go? I just lost you there, Shannon. Sorry about that. I know you were giving a shout out for answering your question. So, yeah, I appreciate you commenting, honestly. Thank you for the question. I don't know where that one went, so my bad. It just jumped on me. But, yeah, let's see. Chason, yeah, you can definitely see Chason coming back. Truth's Finest said, respectfully, I think Mendoza is too valuable to lead it up to maybe young guys to battle it out. Again, all right, sorry about that, guys. I think the stream dropped for a second there, so hopefully we're back and running there. But for whatever reason, I guess this happened last time I was doing a live. When we hit about the hour mark, it dropped real quick. And I've got good internet. I'm paying Cox a lot of money for the good internet, but this one dropped on me here. But anyway, as we go back into it, there was something I was just about to answer with about Fernando being too valuable to gamble at right tackle. Honestly, the big thing for me is I think that they don't feel like it's a gamble with them. Like, they feel like that they can get more out of that right tackle group that they have right now. That's my read on it. That's what the folks that I talk to say. So I just think, let it all play out. You know what I mean? Like, Mendoza's going to have, his growing pains and stuff, like, as he kind of comes along. Let's see, guys. So let me kind of move on before I jump back into the chat, because again, this one's already getting pretty long-winded, but I love going back and forth with you guys, so it's easy to get distracted by the chat. But in terms of like keeping this one rolling, let's talk about another guy that they are bringing back in Eric Stokes. I love the move to bring him back. He revived his career last year on what was a prove-it deal, so he earned this payday with the Raiders. He had career high in snaps and a PFF overall grade as well, earning a 73.5 coverage grade, allowing catches on just 56% of the passes thrown into his coverage. And he's a great locker room guy as well. And overall, sticking in that DB room in terms of additions, they also traded for Teron Johnson from the Bills. And look, this guy has seen a bit of a downturn in the last couple of years of his career. Let's be honest about that. But he is 100% a capable starter for the Raiders in the slot. And they had all kinds of issues in the slot last season. They gave up 420 yards in the slot and 6 touchdowns. That's just the slot receivers right there. So he can come in and kind of stabilize that group. And if he returns to form, then that's huge. And his cap hit, as I noted earlier on the show, basically eats up by what they're going to save when they do ultimately release Geno Smith. So again, I like the move to bring both of those guys back. I think the versatility that Teron Johnson brings to the table is a lot of fun to watch. He's a willing and good tackler. His run defense has been really solid. So I like what he brings to the table as a trade piece that was just 6-7 round, excuse me here, guys. Let me take a sip of water here. I like the move to bring Taron in because, again, like I said, overall good player. I'm sure you guys have seen the quote by now. I shared it on Twitter as well about what he brings to the table and what, Aaron Rodgers had to say about him. He said he's one of the more underrated guys in the league, and that he's allowed them to kind of sit and that he allowed Buffalo to sit and live in that nickel. So again, he's one of those guys that can help unlock a defense in nickel if he ends up being that guy. They're banking on the upside and that he reverts back to who he was. And again, they'll very likely add somebody at that position in the draft. So it could be some, positional versatility in terms of a guy like that coming in, and also, doing a lot of things, and also injecting some competition is what I was trying to get out there. Sam Cleary said the better coaches will make a huge difference in all areas. Could not agree more. One thing you guys have to take away from last year is it was such a mess behind the scenes coaching wise. And even honestly out on the field and what you guys saw every day, like it's very clear that all that has kind of come to fruition of how bad the coaching was last year and how much of just kind of a turmoil and a mess it was, because it was just like a mismatch with so much of the coaching staff and like weird shotgun marriages, and that bled into things, so this new coaching staff where you have all these guys that Kubiak brought along that have won so much experience with him, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, but even with Rob Leonard, they're bringing back continuity and stuff. Offensively, like all these guys have like decades upon decades of working in this wide zone rushing attack and this Kubiak / Shanahan scheme. Like they're all just going to be on the same page. And so they're all lockstep in the right direction. So foundationally, like that is massive, honestly, for me. Let's see. What do we got in here? Millie D01 said Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker played side by side in college. Being in sync and playing off of each other might be overrated. I think Mendoza and Surratt or Cooper Jr. on the Raiders together as well. Hey, look, I think it's super underrated. Like we always talk about, if you talk about the receivers there, everyone always talks about the continuity that a quarterback and receiver can have. Two linebackers playing off of each other is big. So the chemistry there I think is massive for them. I like bringing both those guys who were really productive in college back together here in the NFL. And also like the vibes are just going to be good between them as well. And you want guys that are happy. You're probably going to play better. So I'm curious to see what it ends up working out for both of them. Again, I'm not as high on Quay Walker as I am on Nakobe Dean, but I like the tape from what I have seen from Quay Walker. Really impressed with him and his game in that side of it as well. So it's just going to be fun to watch how those guys are used, honestly. And the vision that I have seen from Quay Walker, I've liked. Like I said, tackles aren't necessarily always a great stat to go off of, but he's been a very consistent tackler. His number has been 100 plus in that regard. I believe he had 128 tackles last year. It's a career high for him. So again, a guy that's going to be very, very fun and interesting to kind of watch to see what he becomes. Let's see. Ant ... said, when Kirk Cousins gets cut, I feel like we're going to sign him for the vet minimum to start the season. That's a guy that I said right away is a very interesting piece, because obviously he's got ties to Kubiak, and I believe even Genoku too. But especially with Kubiak, he could be one of those guys. I'm curious what he wants for his career. Is there a suitor out there that would sign him to be more of a Band-Aid guy, for the full year versus coming in here to work with Mendoza and he knows he's going to be replaced? I don't know where he's at, in his career in that regard, but that's a guy that I signaled right away. It was like, damn, he'd be perfect. If he's down to come in and be the mentor to Mendoza, who better to do it than a Kirk Cousins? I've talked to a lot of folks that believe that he is very similar to Mendoza. And so again, like Kirk, obviously his mind for the game is off the charts. So like learning from him would be huge. And then if you have Kirk Cousins, like you can really take your time with Mendoza. I think they're going to do that regardless, but the team would also, I think, be better than it probably would be with whatever quarterback would be out there. Again, the real thing that I'm curious to see is how much he's going to do that. And to your point here, Dave S. 2026, you say Cousins doesn't seem like a guy that really wants to mentor full time. And I agree with that. I think he's a guy that he feels like there's still more meat left on the bone for his career. He wants to go somewhere where he probably feels like he can be the starter full-time, long-term. So again, I agree with that, but just for conversation's sake, I think it is very interesting to see, what that could look like for him if he's in play whatsoever. Just where he lands, I think is going to be so interesting. Again, whether it's the Raiders or someone else, that is something that's super interesting. Raider Yo 760 said, concerned about Dante Thornton Jr. He dropped a lot of balls last year. You think it was him or coaching? Look, I think one thing, like, we want every player to come in and like instantly be like a guy. And let's not, and I'm not trying to make excuses, which this is obviously sounds like it is a bit here, but like, let's be honest about like how tough it is for a rookie, especially a receiver too, to come in and be a guy and have success. This is also a guy that was viewed, honestly, as more of a developmental piece anyway. Like he was more, you're just like burner, take the lid off type of guy. that's the thing where I was like, man, I think he's going to take some time, even though he was getting a lot of playing time and was making plays in training camp. So yeah, I think the drops were honestly of like, you're just trying to learn so much. There's so much turmoil going on around you. I think part of that was the case, but like, think about it. These guys go from playing an entire college season to training for the NFL draft right away. Then they dive into rookie minicamp and then boom, the season's here. So like, they just have so much going on. So I'm real curious to see what Dante Thornton Jr. looks like in year two, after having some time to just like be able to take a breath, like the kid talking to him in the locker room has his head on straight. He's a really good kid. And I know that doesn't always account for anything, but like I'm real curious to see what he looks like in year two with better coaching in a much more stable situation with a better quarterback situation, more than likely with Mendoza coming in and all that. I think that's going to be really interesting. So yeah, so Raider, I want to see what that kid looks like with another year under his belt. Let's see. Truth's finest here. It sounds like you're dropping some good knowledge here. So I will say, by the way, update, guys. Dean cap hit is only $8 million this year, and Kwity Paye only $9 million. Walker contract only $9 million. That is Walker contract not included, but Geno's still on the books. We should still have about $50 million in cap space left. Okay, so breaking it down that way, there's a lot of money there. You know what I mean? The Raiders still got a lot of money to spend. So again, I'm curious to see how they go about doing that, over the next couple of days here as free agency rolls along. I don't know that there's going to be the next like big splash, but could be real interesting to see how that happens and pans out for him. One guy that I'm bummed that they missed on was Boye Mafe. I really liked him. I thought he would be a guy that could honestly come in and crush it. I think he's going to kill it for Cincinnati. I like what they did. They also signed the kid from Kansas City too. I think the safety as well. Long Raider Night. Sorry, dude. I saw you had a handful of questions, or you were in the comments a lot here, and I try to get to yours because you're always so active in it. So thank you for supporting and doing all that stuff. You said, Jesse, you think that Spytech might target a couple players for the edge, like Epinesa from Buffalo or Ojulari from Philly to bring in more winning culture dudes? Yeah, I think so, 100%. I think Ojulari would be real interesting. Again, anytime you can get somebody from Philly, like that is such a deep room. We see that they put the tender there on Thomas Booker. He's a guy that I think it's great to be able to bring him back as well. He's got that positional versatility. I like him more as a defensive end in this 3-4 base. But, a guy that can slide around and do a lot of different things. So I think that was a shrewd pickup. But, yeah, anytime I'm all for bringing guys in that did a lot or that I'm bringing in, like, even it's rotational guys that have been around the winning culture. That's huge as you're trying to set a foundation. Because that was one thing in the locker room. I heard Geno Smith one time note that there was just no culture and no foundation, and they were trying to build that here in Las Vegas. And the reason they don't have that is because there's been so much turnover over the years. You know what I mean? So like they've been trying to just constantly hitting the reset button. So now with Klint Kubiak coming in, with Spytech being retained, and with the moves that they're making, and Mendoza coming in, and even a Tyler Linderbaum as well, and even sending Max out the door, who I love. I think they should have kept Max Crosby. I hate that they traded him, but they got awesome return on him, and that just jolts their whole deal right now. Did they just trade Geno? Someone just said right now. Did they actually just trade Geno? Let me hop on. If they did, you guys let me know in the comments here right now if you are seeing that. Oh yeah, Geno Smith. Let's see. The Raiders are sending two-time Pro Bowl quarterback Geno Smith to the Jets. Wow. Las Vegas is widely expected to draft Indiana QB Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 pick, clearing the way for Smith to be dealt again at age 35. So there you go. Geno Smith getting traded to the Jets. I mentioned that I was actually on TV out here in Las Vegas earlier. I forget what day it was, sometime last week. I think it was Friday. And I said that maybe the Jets would be a team that would emerge for Geno Smith. This is huge for the Raiders to be able to do it. And Sam, I'm going to get to that super chat in a second. I appreciate you, man. But this is big for the Raiders to be able to trade Geno Smith, because now the Jets very likely, again, don't know all the details here, but now the Jets will take on that contract. So that's even big. So it should save the Raiders even more money as well. So they're going to be able to get more money coming in and going to be saving some money on the dead cap hit there. So that's massive for them to be able to trade him. What did they trade him for again? As I just read that, sorry. They haven't said. Okay, yeah, they haven't said what the return is on that trade yet. But yeah, I love that. That's awesome for them to be able to go and do that. Let's hit this question real quick before we start diving back into Geno a bit here from Sam Cleary. You said, appreciate your show. Love the coverage. I appreciate you, big dog. Thank you. Seriously. You guys have been so great to me since I launched this thing, and I love doing the show with you. So it's a lot of fun. You said, are we getting another offensive lineman? If so, in the draft or another free agent? I'd imagine they'll fill in, with some more depth pieces and things like that, honestly. in free agency. But yeah, I would look to the draft, honestly, for more of the receiver or for more of the offensive linemen. Again, I'm real interested to see what happens at 14. The kid out of Utah, is he going to end up being there? What happens? Does somebody maybe slide at the top of the second? Like I said, Blake Miller at right tackle. I just think when I went through my mock draft the other day, or yesterday, actually, after some of the moves, I ended up with Blake Miller at right tackle or Ian Anchor. And I know I'm butchering his name, but the kid from Arizona State at right tackle. Like, those are moves I would totally make. Like, shore up your offensive line completely if you do that. I mean, think about it. If they have Linderbaum at center, you go and draft a right tackle, you're set. Now let JPJ and Rogers figure, well, let JPJ be the guy at right guard. More than likely, JPJ can play both right or left guard, but then let Caleb Rogers slot in there as well. And I think that's a hell of an offensive line just in terms of how you change things and how guys are slotted in. And then you add in the coaching. I think it bumps that group up even more. Let's see. Yeah, so Joseph G, just to get to some of the people who jumped in here late, you said that you would draft Ione at 14. Let's kind of end this now for anybody that's wondering on Ione. He is not a fit for the Raiders. And I may have to eat my words and maybe they take him, but he is not a guy that moves well in space. He does not fit well into these wide zone rushing attacks. So that's a guy, like, go ahead and really read and read up on him and dive into the weeds on him. He doesn't fit what Kubiak and them want to do. Yes, he is a hell of a player, one hell of a guard. I just don't think that he is a guy that fits what the Raiders are going to want to do, doesn't fit this system, doesn't fit this scheme. It would be getting an awesome player that doesn't fit what you want to do. Dominic said, damn, the Jets are just terrible. Raider Nation 510, go check on Twitter. A handful of people have announced the trade there about Geno. Let's see. Somebody just said, I want to get to more of the Jet stuff. Let's see. Yeah, overall, look, I love that the Raiders were able to trade Geno Smith. That's massive for them rather than having to cut him, just what that ends up being. So huge for them to be able to save, I believe it's $18.5 million in cap space. So that's a big boost for the Raiders to be able to do that. You know what I mean? I mean, that is massive. Okay, so it's a 6-7 pick swap for sending Geno Smith back to New York. So that's going to be really, really good. But I would imagine maybe don't get too excited, guys, because I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what it ends up being in terms of them eating the contract. Maybe more than anything, honestly, it's just that they're able to bring him, or they're able to trade him, get a draft pick for him rather than just cutting him outright. And they may have to eat some of that contract. Keep an eye on how that goes in terms of, what the signing ends up being there. And lastly, guys, as we close this one out, and then we'll get back. Oh, wait, hang on. We got a super chat, so I want to get to this one. Ruben Rust, I can't believe you just paid $5 to be able to say this, but I appreciate the pettiness here on this one. You said the Jets are trying to get the number 1 pick next year. That is, you paid $5 for that, man. First of all, I appreciate for the super chat. That is petty as hell. Look, I like Geno Smith. Don't get me wrong. He blocked me on Twitter. I couldn't believe that he did that. I thought I was respectful and good about the way it is. But look, Geno played horrible last year. It is what it is. Let's see what he ends up getting over there or how it ends up looking for him. But the Jets do look like they're a mess. But I personally, I know you guys don't necessarily feel this way, but I am rooting for him to have success there. It just was obviously a weird, horrible marriage. Was not good. Oh man, James F7852 said Dobbs to New England, 4 years, $70 million. After they signed Jalen Naylor, I probably punted on Dobbs, but that was a guy that I really liked for the Raiders to possibly come in and be a real value signing for them. I think he's going to kill it there. I think that's going to be super interesting in New England to see what Dobbs ends up doing. Nate Hobbs released by Green Bay. Yeah, that was one I saw earlier. I loved Nate Hobbs when he played for the Raiders. Is there a world where he comes back and is reunited? Obviously, Joe Woods still in-house here. I believe he was on staff when Nate Hobbs was in town, if memory serves me right. But again, health, yes, to some of you guys, Shannon, you're saying he only played 11 games, can't stay healthy. Health is an issue for sure. That's something where I'm curious to see what ends up happening. Truth's Finest, also Jesse wondering if we do get any of the Wilkins dead cap back for the contract violation. Yeah, that's still happening. That'll kind of come to fruition more in the spring. I was talking with Vinny Bonsignor about that. Look, I am not super well versed in that and how it works. I'll be completely honest and upfront with you guys. I don't want to lie to you or anything like that or try and front like I know exactly how that's going to pan out. But I think the Raiders are going to get a chunk of that money back, and I believe they've already accounted for that. That's how I think that all works out. So don't expect like a huge bump or boost in money and what they've accounted for in returns to, or in terms of that kind of return. Can Hobbs come back as a free safety? Ooh, I don't know. Look, I don't know if he's ever actually played safety. I'll be completely honest. I don't think he has. I think he was just corner, like outside corner and slot. But I would love to bring him back. I'd be curious to see. Yeah, would he be cheap? That's what I would want to see. He should be cheap. I would totally bring him back. What he did as a blitzer, super impressive. I really, really like that about him. So he'd be a fun one to bring back into the fold for sure. Moko Raider, shout out from Germany. Hey, shout out, dude. What is it? Guten Tag? Guten Morgen? I don't know what it would be. I could be wrong on that one. I don't know a lot of great German, to be completely honest. But thanks for watching, man. Raider Nation, what an incredible free agency. Yeah, for sure. I think that honestly, like what they've done in free agency so far, you have to love it. Let's see. Hobbs versus Johnson nickel battle for camp would be interesting. Nickel battle. Yeah, that would be really interesting. But I think he is more of that true guy that like more nickel. He's more of a safety that can roll down into the nickel and just unlocks the defense. He and Hobbs are two different players. Hobbs is more, in my read on it, more of a pure corner that plays nickel and is good in the nickel, more of a pure nickel, I guess that is. Whereas Johnson, to me, is a guy that can move around, brings more to the table as a run stuffer, all those different things. I think he is more of that like rover type of player. So I like Johnson more than I do like Hobbs, to be completely honest, in terms of that. Oh, heck yeah, Dave, 2026. So I got it right. Guten Tag is right. Good day. Hell yeah. I thought I had it right, so I appreciate that. All right, guys. So last breakdown here, not the sexiest one in the world, and then we'll close out. We'll get into some of the chat here, and then we'll cut this thing off because I got some radio hits coming up. I'm going to be jumping on Raider Nation Radio to chat with JT the Brick later today. But again, they did sign a kicker. Daniel Carlson, sadly, is going to be gone. That's a bummer. I really liked Carlson, and honestly, I liked what he brought to the table. And I don't like this move based off of the stats because as kickers, like all you really have to do is look at the stats. Over the last 3 years, Matt Gay hit 80.2% of his field goals and is 48.5% from 50 yards plus, whereas Daniel Carlson over that same span hit 84.5% of his total kicks and was 59% from 50 plus. On paper, again, Carlson, the better kicker recently, but Matt does have experience with Joe DeCamillis and has had more of his successful years with him back in, I believe it was 2021 and 2022 in LA. So that's why they make that move. Familiarity with the new coach, special teams coordinator, that is, that's why you bring him in. I'm really bummed to see Carlson walk out the door. I thought this was just like a chaotic year overall for the Raiders on special teams, and I thought he's a guy that could come back. Let's see. What else do we got here before we close this one out? What else can we interact on here? Notabot9-C9Q. That's a fun one to say. You said Omar Cooper at 14. I don't think you take him that high. I think that would be a reach, to be completely honest. Really like the kid's game. I don't think you take him at 14. I think they would go a different route. I think based off of the way that they've approached things here, if they stay at 14, they can go best player available, and I think they will get one hell of a player if they stand pat at 14. Ant ... said, feels like a camp leg, and we draft the kicker from Hawaii. I've heard some folks saying that. Ted Nguyen was talking about it. I believe Vinny Bonsignor also said that too. I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with that kid, but I have seen a couple of the games there from Hawaii and watched him a few times. That kid would be a good one to bring in for sure. Raider. I'm not reading that one, big dog, but that was a good one. Let's see. The Tokyo Toe. Yes, that's the kid's nickname. I was trying to think about what it was off the top of my head. Like one, just the nickname alone. You bring in somebody called the Tokyo Toe. That would be so sick. So I would love it on that one. Raider Nation 510 says, would you draft Deontay Lawson or Josiah Trotter, and in what round? Yeah. In terms of the rounds, honestly, this one's tough for me because I thought I had a good read on where those guys would go. It sounds like Trotter might be third round. Deontay Lawson, I think, is more like fourth or fifth round, to be completely honest. We got to wait and see. I got to dive a little deeper into them, but I do know more about Trotter. Obviously, he's got the lineage and all that stuff. Super athletic kid. I believe needs to be a little bit better in tackling, but the Raiders got some guys who are already great tacklers. So bring in Trotter. Maybe he can be a little bit better in coverage there. I like Trotter over Deontay Lawson. I've done more work on Trotter than I have on Lawson, to be completely honest. But again, both of them very intriguing prospects for sure. For sure. Right there are guys that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. TNVG238 said, who will be kickoff and punt return? Honestly, I think that they're going to be my guess would be Trey Tucker probably goes back as the returner. That would be my move there. I'm trying to, memory serves me right. I know Trey returns some kicks as well. I would put him back there because I just think he is a burner. And so I'd like to see what he can do full time in that role with this new staff, just with a better situation, kind of all around. You know what I mean? That would be something I would keep an eye on. Demon Knight 8625 said, I like the linebacker from BYU, Jack Kelly. I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about Jack Kelly, so fill me in on what you know for him. But I like the kid. If you're going like later round, find Lander Barton from Utah. That's a guy that I think is interesting. Real athletic linebacker. He's got a history of athletes in his family. He's a guy that I think could be there and could be a really good special teams like war daddy. You hear that term thrown around. I think he could be one for sure. Where's the fullback for Genty? Says ItK Raider N 88K15. I'm trying to get better about your name because you've been in the comments there. He said, yeah, where's the fullback for Genty? Zamir Cut. We'll see what happens with Zamir. I can see them moving on from him depending on what they do here in free agency and obviously again in the draft. Zamir was looking good, but I think and Shannon, to your point here, Shaheed actually re-signed with the Seahawks. So if that's, as long as that's who you're talking about, yeah, he just re-signed with the Seahawks. So that's not happening. And they paid a lot of money for him. And I don't think that would have made sense for the Raiders, to be completely honest. But in terms of the fullback, what is it? Max Breslin? I forgot how to say his name, but the kid out of Michigan, I believe. He is a one to keep an eye on. Seems to be the top option for them. Also, too, the tight end from Indiana. His name is escaping me, but that's a kid to keep an eye on because, yes, he was a tight end, but he probably converts more to that H-back / fullback type of role in the NFL. Riley Nikowski, yeah, that's another guy. That was the kid, one of the kids I'm talking about as well. Where'd Riley play at? Is he the one from Indiana? Let's see, Riley. I'm looking up his name. I forget exactly where this kid ended up playing. Yeah. That's the kid from, that is the kid from Indiana. He's the one I've heard like he would be kind of a converted H-back / fullback. That would be the one that's real interesting. But again, I really liked, Zamir and what we were seeing from him in camp. It didn't quite work out. I'm curious what this staff thinks about him. For Shannon, to your point there, I think it was really tough to see Alec Ingold sign with the Chargers. I wasn't a big fan of that, the fact that the Raiders couldn't land him, but I see why he goes to the Chargers, reuniting with Mike McDaniel. Sorry, God, there's so many McDonald with all these different things. But man, they're going to have a hell of an offense. The Raiders are going to have to step it up defensively against the Chargers. That's going to be a really, really good offense with him in there. Let's see. Oh, Fabrizio said apparently Geno restructured his contract to be traded, huh? Interesting. So I got to dive deeper into that to see what this actually ends up looking like in terms of the hit and stuff. But again, big for the Raiders to be able to trade his contract more than anything else. But guys, look, we have been doing this for over an hour and 20 minutes. I could sit here and do this all damn day with you guys. I got to cut it short. But in terms of Raider Nation 510, any kicker you would draft, Tokyo Toe, we just talked about on the kid from Hawaii, definitely would. James F7852 said, any interest in Juwan Jennings? 100%. I like Juwan Jennings. I've got some notes actually here from my free agency preview on Juwan Jennings. He's a guy look, super reliable. You know what I mean? Like this guy is going to come down with the contested catches as well. He's got 39 contested catches since I can't talk. He has 39 contested catches since the start of 2024, including the postseason. He has come down with the ball in traffic a lot. Super reliable for them on third down as well. And also too, what that contract is going to look like. PFF is actually projecting that his contract will be right around $16 million a year, which would rank 29th in average annual value. Again, he's a little longer in the tooth, a little older than you would like, but I think it could be an option because this is a guy that knows this offensive family better than just anybody out there. But again, the Raiders have invested some draft capital in some young guys. Spytech really likes Jack Bash. That's his pick right there. So he's going to want to see what this new staff can get out of Jack. So again, they probably don't go after Juwan Jennings, but I really do like, him there. Let's see. Not about 9 said, what's the matter? You only work 1 hour a day? Nah, dude. I've been grinding, dude. I don't know if you guys can see. You guys probably see it in the videos. I got bags under my eyes 24/7 because I'm always tired. I love what I do. Don't get me wrong. It's so much fun and everything, but there's a lot of staring at computer screens and diving into the weeds on guys in the off season. Like, I can't wait for the season to come back so we can be out and about and actually like watching football with our eyes rather than staring at computers. But yeah, no, I got a lot more work to do here as the day rolls on. Obviously, lots of editing and things like that behind the scenes for these podcasts. And then also, too, like I said, I'm going to be jumping on JT the Brick Show a little bit later as well. All right. James F. 7852 said technically Bowers is our number one receiver, so reliability at wide receiver may be good enough. Yeah, 100% agree. Look, Brock is the number one guy. Jalen Naylor, again, even though he's been a number 3 in Minnesota, the guys he was behind, really good. Jalen Naylor probably picks up as your number 2 option in that like receiving core where I lump the tight ends into as well, and Brock Bowers too. So that's where I think Jalen Naylor probably comes in, and this is a guy that is going to be big time, I think, for the Raiders. I think this is one of those dudes that, like I said, the scouting community and the analytics guys in particular, they really think he's primed, for a breakout year. I like the move. I said it for those of you guys that weren't in here. I am very, very curious to see what his contract looks like, or what his output looks like. I think he could be the poor man's JSN in this offense. Okay, as we get ready to close this one out here, Dave S. 2026 said, Jesse, the Raiders, meanwhile, are paying most of Smith's base salary, $26.5 million for 2026, according to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero. The Jets will pay him near the league minimum as a result. Okay, so again, probably not much different in terms of the cap return that they're getting, for Geno. It's going to stay about the same, but the big thing is you get a pick in return. I think that's big for the Raiders. Again, try to inject some young talent. Maybe you hit on that late round pick as a guy coming in. So it's just better for them to do that than just like cut him outright and eat that money. So now at least you eat the money and get a pick in return. The Jets aren't good. So again, that late round pick is going to be higher in that particular round. Let's see. Not a bot 9. You said we need a big, tall, and fast wide receiver 1 that can blow the lid off of a defense. Well, that's what they thought they were getting in Dante Thornton Jr. So that's the guy that tries to do that. Not necessarily a physical guy, but he's fast as hell and can blow the lid off a defense. Also, too, Trey Tucker, not a big guy, but speed demon who can take the lid off of a defense. I think Kubiak's going to work with some of those guys. The one that I do think is going to be interesting is how things kind of pan out in the draft. Like, do they go and try and get a Surratt? Do they get one of those big, like, ex-ball winning type of receiver? Ted Hurst, the kid out of Georgia State, is one that's interesting. I think Reggie Vigil is his name, too, from Texas Tech, another big-bodied guy to keep an eye on. Do they go after one of those, like, bigger body guys? We see how Mendoza has eaten with those back-shouldered balls. I think if they do go receiver in the draft, I think they go for, again, a bigger-bodied X-type of receiver or, like your Mike Evans type of guy. And I think they can go bargain hunting to find that dude. There's a lot of those guys, on days, in the 3rd round where I don't think they necessarily go, but in like the 4th round and beyond where those guys could end up being. Raider Nation 510 said, trade a future 2nd round pick for Brian Thomas Jr. 100%. I'd be down for that. If it was a future 2nd, I would do that in a heartbeat. Still young, got a lot of good football in front of him. For Quay, Raiders said, don't we have enough wide receivers now? Tucker, Thornton, Betch, and also adding Jalen Naylor into the mix? Yes, I think they do. Again, unless one of those really good receivers happens to be there, that they have a grade on them that's really high, I think they stick with what they've got in the receiving core. But we'll see what happens overall. I think it's going to be real interesting to see, again, how that pans out in the draft in terms of the receiving room. That's going to be really fun to kind of see. And yeah, James F. 7852 said, we absolutely cannot trade 2027 picks. I would agree with that just because of the draft is being stacked and everything. But I think the Raiders are going to be able to do some moving and shaking in that 2027 draft just because there are so many top quarterbacks out there. People are going to be trying to do whatever the hell they can to get those quarterbacks. And the Raiders, already having their guy in Fernando Mendoza at the time, will be able to play the board. So they're probably going to move around and get some more draft picks as well. And with that, guys, we are almost coming up. We're an hour and 29 minutes into this thing. This has been awesome. I love doing these live shows with you guys. So like I said, for now, I am planning on doing another one on Thursday live at 10 a.m. here on YouTube. I might tweak that, to be completely honest. I might pre-record some stuff because I have a couple ideas of some folks to bring on the show and pre-record to break down some of the guys like Jalen Naylor in particular and kind of what they bring to the table. But if not, we'll be doing this one live. So keep an eye on all the social channels, on X, Twitter, all that good stuff. I'll be making an announcement for what our Thursday show is going to look like. But appreciate all of you guys for jumping in on this. We had a lot of people in the comments. This one was a lot of fun, breaking down anything and everything on the early start to free agency for the Raiders. And what happens the next couple of days is going to be very, very interesting. So as always, guys, thank you for watching. If you've been here this long and you're not already subscribed, make sure you smash that subscribe button here on YouTube. Hit the bell icon as well so you're alerted for any of our new shows or any of that stuff. And make sure you check us out online as well at silverandblacksportsnetwork.com. If you haven't already subscribed to that free newsletter, again, please go check it out. It drops on Friday mornings. We don't blow you up with tons of emails, but it's chock full of so much more in-depth analysis rather than sometimes here. This is like my brain dump of information. This one is a shorter, more just like harder hitting version of that. And again, I think it's good work. I have a lot of fun putting that newsletter together. So again, if you haven't already signed up for it, it's completely free. Go do that over on silverandblacksportsnetwork.com. And again, shout out to all you guys. Raider Nation 510 said, great show. TNVG 238 said, thank you, Jesse. Thank you. And Raider Nation 510 hit me with a Jesse is the GOAT. I appreciate that. What a way to close it out, huh? Going out as the GOAT. I appreciate you guys. Seriously. Thank you so much. Can't wait to do this again. And we will catch you guys next time on the next episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Take it easy.